It won't open. Why won't this key turn? My mother, Sandra, let out a hysterical shriek and stabbed the spare key she'd pulled from her handbag into our front door over and over. It was as if the door were a traitor refusing to obey her. Beside her, my eldest sister Megan glared at her smartphone with a look of pure irritation. That Candace never picks up. How could she ignore our messages while she's on vacation? And the movers have been waiting for 30 minutes. What if they charge extra? What are we supposed to do then? My second sister Katie crossed her arms and nodded toward the moving truck with her chin. Our third sister Nicole watched our mother with a worried face. Mom, are you sure that's the right key? Of course it is. It worked perfectly last week. Oh, damn it. My mother's high-pitched voice rang through the quiet suburban morning. On their faces, there was nothing but agitation and raw anger after their plans were thwarted by what they saw as a petty inconvenience. Little did they know that on the other side of the world, I was watching this ridiculous, ugly farce in high-definition security camera footage, and I was about to rewind the clock by a few hours in my head. My month-long trip had only a few days left. I'd worked myself to the bone for this holiday. I had ignored every work call and finally managed to find some quiet. Then one video call from my cousin Angela shattered it into pieces. Angela's face filled the screen. She looked like she was about to cry. Candace, please look at the family group chat right now. Angela, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. Is everything okay? Is everything okay? Don't be ridiculous. I've had it with your family selfishness. I really can't take it anymore. I know how hard you worked to get where you are. Here we go again. I muted the notification 6 months ago, so I don't know what's happening. I was so done with their selfishness. I get that. I really do. But this is different. Their selfishness isn't just words this time. They're trying to take over your house. Just look, please, before it's too late. Angela's desperate expression sent a cold, clenching dread through my chest. With trembling fingers, like someone brushing dust off an old gravestone, I tapped the family chat icon. What hit me when it opened was nothing short of hell. My mother's message stabbed the screen. Megan gets the sunny master bedroom. Katie gets the west-facing room with the garden view. Nicole gets the one with the balcony. Candace is going to be alone, so the sofa in the living room will be fine for her. My sister's replies came pouring in. Yay, which wallpaper should we pick? Look, we've already moved half the stuff in. With every scroll, I saw my house morph into something I didn't recognize. Photos of new furniture. Pictures showing my personal belongings shoved into corners. Images of my sisters posing in front of my closet. I felt all the blood drain from my face. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a nightmare I could wake from. They were serious. They were trying to take everything I'd built single-handedly while I was away. My home. My life. When I read my mother's next message, it was the last spark to my anger. The key? Oh, that's easy. I had a spare maid when we stayed over before her trip. She's so trusting and easy to fool. I thought of the IT consulting company I'd launched alone back in college. The code I'd written myself. The months and years I'd poured into it. The dream house I bought with that company's profits. My blood, sweat, and tears. Were they seriously trampling all of that with muddy shoes? The thought that my mother had betrayed the hospitality I'd shown her and had the spiteful foresight to make a secret spare key made me sick. In the chat, there was even a gloating caption from my sisters. Moving in tomorrow. There was no time to mourn. It was time to fight. My fingers shook as I opened my contacts. I called Ethan first, the lawyer who'd handled every step of buying this house. There was no one who understood my rightful ownership of this place better than him. After a few rings, his normally calm voice answered. Ethan, it's an emergency. My family is trying to take over my house. They plan to move in tomorrow. I sent him screenshots of the chat and explained succinctly that my mother had the spare key made without my knowledge before my trip. On the other end of the line, I could hear Ethan inhale sharply. I know how much this house means to you. This is a premeditated, malicious intrusion on your property. If you want to act, there are steps we can take immediately. We can plan the strongest possible countermeasures. I answered his words without hesitation. Yes, I don't care what it costs. I want my home back. All right, I'll get a 24-hour locksmith and a security team out to your house right away. We'll change every lock and install cameras tonight. We'll fortify the place before they arrive. Ethan's firm words steadied me. That's right. I wasn't going to be the daughter who only cried anymore. I read through the family chat again. Hidden among the messages I'd skimmed past in fury was a crucial detail. I've booked the movers for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, everyone. Don't be late. It was a message from my mother. That was the time that would decide their fate. They had, with their own hands, given me the final piece I needed to perfect my counterattack. Not long after I hung up with Ethan, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number, but Ethan had messaged me. It's Ben, the head of security. Please pick up the call. I answered immediately. Candace? This is Ben from Keymaster Security. Ethan Park informed us of an urgent request for security measures, and I'm calling to get the details from you. Hearing the professional, steady voice on the other end calmed me a little. Yes, this is Candace. Glad you called. Tonight I want every lock, front, back, garage, replaced with the newest keypad locks that have no physical keys. I want high-resolution cameras installed all around the house so there are no blind spots. Please cover especially the front door and the entrances to every room. Roger, ma'am. Ethan has already given us the house owner's ID. Our team is waiting nearby. Once we receive your final authorization and payment details, we'll begin immediately and complete everything before dawn. I gave my credit card information then and there and ordered their top-tier plan. When I hung up, exhaustion hit me like a wave. But there was no time to sleep. A few hours later, I received an email from the security company. Candace, all requested work has been completed. Please see the attached file for the new keypad passcodes. Live camera feeds are accessible 24/7 via our app. My fingers trembled as I opened the app. On the screen, my familiar front door sat quietly in the dark. The image was astonishingly clear. I made coffee and opened my eyes properly. This was it. The real thing. 3 hours until the movers scheduled 9 a.m. I stared at the camera feed as if my life depended on it, like a commander in a fortress control room. My house, my rules, my fight. As the eastern sky began to brighten, the first car arrived. It was my mother's car. On my phone screen, I watched my mother and Nicole climb out. Soon, Megan and Katie pulled up in their cars. The four of them met in front of the house and marched toward my door like triumphant conquerors, faces alight with expectation and excitement. Today, this becomes our home. The camera's microphone clearly picked up my mother's excited voice. We're finally moving into this beautiful home. I want to change my bedroom wallpaper this weekend. My sisters whooped like they already owned the place. Then came the decisive moment. My mother reached into her bag, pulled out the spare key, and confidently slid it toward the keyhole, only to realize it wasn't there. Huh? She froze. Where the keyhole had been was a cold, shining digital keypad. What is this? What the hell is this? She jabbed at the keypad wildly. My sisters crowded the door, shouting, What's going on? Did the locks change? Did Candace do something? Right then, the mover's big truck eased to a stop in front of the house. Two men in work overalls climbed down, and their foreman approached my mother. Good morning, we're here for the move. Shall we start bringing in the furniture? My mother completely panicked then. Yes, but wait, the door won't open. The key, it won't work. Oh, you forgot the key? No, I have it. There's some weird machine on it. She was stumbling over her words. My sisters exchanged awkward looks. The movers kept professional faces, but their eyes clearly said, another troublesome job. I turned on the app's microphone. The speaker sits just above the front door. My voice would sound as if it came from the heavens, ringing down over them. I took a deep breath and spoke into the mic, quietly but with absolute clarity. You will not enter my house. My voice rang clearly from the speaker at the front door. My mother and sisters froze as if struck by lightning, turning their heads and looking around wildly for the source. Who? Who is it? My mother shouted up at the sky. I continued. It's me, Candace. In that instant, I watched the four of their faces shift from stunned to furious from Paris with crystal clarity. Megan glared at the small camera lens mounted above the door. Candace, is that you? What is the meaning of this prank? Open the door right now. This isn't a prank. Consider this a warning. You are standing on my property, and you have no right to enter. My mother began to scream hysterically into the camera. What are you saying, Candace? We're family. Your house is our house, too. I had been waiting for those words. I delivered, word for word, the line I'd prepared for this moment clearly. No, this house is my sole property. You have no right to assign yourselves rooms here, and you have no right to live here. What the? Nicole shouted. But we told you in the family chat. It's your fault for not seeing it. Are you kidding? You went ahead without my consent and think that sending a message makes it okay? Do you honestly believe that? You are trespassers. What you are trying to do is illegal. Pack everything up and leave my property immediately, or I will call the police. A hushed silence fell. The movers, sensing something was wrong, hovered awkwardly by the truck. Katie was the first to regain her composure. Don't be ridiculous. We already canceled our old house lease. Where are we supposed to go now? That's not my problem. You planned this and acted on it without consulting me. You take responsibility for the consequences. My mother began to tremble, her voice breaking as she pleaded. Candace, how can you be so cruel? We only wanted to live together. How can you say that to your mother? She didn't yet know that her tears no longer reached me. Her tears had once been a spell that controlled me, but that spell was utterly broken. You dare call yourself a mother? The same person who tried to steal her daughter's property without so much as asking? Now you claim to be the victim? My voice was cold. My mother was left speechless. Instead, Megan stepped forward with a face full of anger. Are you serious, Candace? You want to throw us out? We will never leave. Our stuff is already inside. Exactly, Katie chimed in. We have the right to live here. If you try to make us homeless, we'll call the police on you. Their claims had lost any pretense of legitimacy and had become nothing but brazen defiance. I sighed and issued my final warning. Rights? Who are you to talk about rights? This is your last notice. 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, you and the movers must completely leave my property. If you are still here after 5 minutes, I will not hesitate to call the police. Go ahead and try, Megan screamed. Sure, I said. I will tell the police that you secretly had a spare key made while I was traveling, that you broke into my house, and that you attempted to unlawfully occupy it. The footage from these security cameras will serve as the best evidence. Mentioning the cameras caused a small ripple of unease across my sisters' faces. But my mother was not done. She began collapsing into tears. Oh, what will the neighbors think? My daughter shutting out her mother and calling the police? How embarrassing. Her theatrical lament did not move me at all. The mover's foreman approached her, uncomfortable. Ma'am, our contract assumes the move-in will proceed smoothly. Under these circumstances, we cannot continue the work. Would you like us to withdraw for today? Are you betraying me too? No, that's not it. It's just, this is a family matter. The mover's professional judgment crushed my mother's last hope. She was surrounded by enemies. It was a situation where those words were truly appropriate. I set my phone timer for 5 minutes and hit start. Of course, they couldn't hear the merciless countdown, but I could. It sounded like a gong to cut the last ties of the past. As the countdown ran, the scene at the doorstep descended into ugly finger-pointing. It's all Mom's fault. Megan jabbed her finger at her. You said, don't worry, Candace won't say anything. What are we supposed to do now with all this stuff? That's right. We have nowhere to live anymore. Katie began to shout with a cracking voice. We're homeless because of you. What? What are you saying? You were the ones who wanted this in the first place. My mother's voice trembled as she tried to defend herself. The movers gave off an unmistakable sign indicating they wanted no part of this mess. The foreman retreated to the truck and began making a phone call, clearly eager to distance himself from the chaos. They too were victims of this farce. I simply watched quietly on my phone screen. The timer had less than a minute left. Megan was still shouting. Anyway, we're not leaving. Go ahead and call the cops. They won't interfere in a family matter. That was their final and greatest miscalculation. When the timer hit 0, I kept the door speaker on and tapped the number for the police. Both my voice and the dispatcher's would be audible to everyone standing outside. 911. What's your emergency? The operator's voice echoed clearly through the front door speaker. I answered calmly. There are several individuals attempting to enter my property illegally. I've ordered them to leave, but they are refusing. The address is... As I recited the address, I could see the color drain from all four faces on the camera feed. Are you the property owner, ma'am? Yes. Understood. We'll dispatch a patrol car immediately. Please stay safe and don't approach them. Thank you. I'm currently overseas, but the entire situation is being recorded and monitored through the security system. I ended the call. After a brief silence, I spoke again through the mic. Time's up. The police are on their way. Are you still planning to stand there? Right after my final warning, the faint sound of sirens began to echo in the distance. At first, it was so soft I thought it might be my imagination, but a moment later it grew louder, unmistakably real and drawing closer. Panic spread among them like an infection. You've got to be kidding me. She actually called them? Megan shrieked, her face pale as she ran to her car. I'm not getting arrested for this. I'm leaving. Wait, Megan. Katie followed. What about the boxes? I don't care. You deal with it. Megan jumped into her car, gunned the engine, and sped away, leaving the others stunned by her sheer selfishness. The moving company's foreman turned to my mother, his voice firm but polite. Ma'am, the police are arriving. We'll be taking our leave now. Today's service fees and the cost for storing your items still on the truck will be billed to you later. Wait, don't you dare leave me here. But the movers ignored her, climbed into the truck, and drove off, away from the approaching sirens. Only my mother, Nicole, and Katie's scattered boxes were left on the street. Mom, what do we do? Nicole sobbed. What do we do? What do you think? Katie, in full panic, began shoving boxes into her car at random. I'm not getting arrested. You two deal with the rest. And with that, she too fled down the street. In front of the house, only my mother, Nicole, and a sad heap of boxes remained. The loud sirens indicated they were just around the corner. My mother never gave up the role of the tragic heroine. She lifted her face to the sky, glaring into the camera, and spat out her curse. Candace, I will never forgive you. With that, she grabbed Nicole's hand and ran for her car. Her vehicle sped off just as the patrol car turned the corner, red lights flashing across the front of my house. On the camera feed, 2 police officers stepped out, staring in confusion at the strange scene. No people, only boxes scattered across the curb. I activated the speaker again and addressed them calmly. Good morning, officers. This is Candace, the owner of the house. I'm the one who made the call. The officers, startled to hear a voice from above them, quickly grasped the situation. Ma'am, it looks like your family has already left. What would you like us to do about the belongings left on the property? They're not mine. Some may have been brought inside as well. From a legal standpoint, what's the most appropriate way to handle them? I asked, deferring to their professional judgment. I see. Legally speaking, the safest procedure would be to have your attorney issue a formal notice to the owners, requesting that they collect their belongings within a specified period. If they fail to do so, it will be considered abandonment, and you'll be free to dispose of the items. In the meantime, we'll take photos of the current state and prepare a report. I thanked the officer for his clear and professional advice. I understand completely. Thank you very much. After the police left, I immediately called my attorney, Ethan. Ethan, there are still belongings left both inside and outside the house. I'm leaving them for you to handle. Please send them an official notice stating that if they don't retrieve everything, including the items inside the house, within 1 week, it will be considered abandonment, and we will dispose of them. Also, make sure to include that they'll be charged for all storage and disposal fees. I changed my flight immediately and returned home the next day. In the end, Megan showed up at the very last minute. Under the supervision of a neutral third party arranged by Ethan, she silently collected all the belongings from both inside and outside the house. The physical invasion was over, but my heart was still in a battlefield. That house had been trampled on, inspected, and temporarily occupied by people who had no right to touch it. Even after the belongings were gone, I felt as though the memory of their presence had seeped into the walls and floors. So even after returning to the country, I chose not to move back in immediately. I stayed at a hotel instead, until I could truly feel that my home was once again a safe place. As I had anticipated, my family launched their counterattack. Their battleground was social media. My mother posted a long message on Facebook, along with a tearful selfie. My daughter, whom I raised with love, has thrown me out of her home and called the police on me. All I wanted was for our family to live together in warmth and closeness. Success, it seems, can turn people into cold-hearted monsters. The post was quickly flooded with sympathetic comments from relatives and friends who knew nothing of the real situation. Oh no, how awful. Candace is such an ungrateful daughter. Stay strong. My sisters joined in too. Megan wrote, "Our new life was destroyed by a sister with no heart." Katie followed with, "We don't even have a place to live anymore. All because of one selfish person." None of them mentioned the fact that they had tried to break into my house, or that they had attempted to take it over while I was away. They painted themselves as tragic victims and me as a cold-blooded villain. I didn't respond to any of their posts. Only my cousin Angela reached out privately, sending me a short message. "Don't worry. The people who know the truth are on your side." But their attacks didn't stop there. A few weeks after their smear campaign on social media, a thick envelope arrived at my hotel. The sender was a law firm I'd never heard of. With a sinking feeling, I opened it, only to find a lawsuit inside. The plaintiffs were my mother and my 3 sisters, and the contents of their claim were so absurd it felt like fiction. The defendant, Candace, verbally promised the plaintiffs that they would have the right to reside permanently in the property in question. The plaintiffs relied on that promise, terminating their previous lease and made preparations to move. The defendant then unilaterally broke this agreement, thereby violating the plaintiff's right to residence. The plaintiffs seek financial compensation for the economic and emotional damages suffered as a result. I couldn't even feel angry anymore. I just laughed. There was no way I would ever make such a promise. They had shifted their target, from stealing the house itself to trying to steal money. I scanned the documents and immediately emailed them to Ethan. "Ethan, the next round has begun." A few hours later, he called me. His voice carried a mix of disbelief and frustration. "Candace, I've read the complaint. This is ridiculous. There's no evidence at all. It's pure harassment. They realize they can't claim ownership of the house, so now they're going after you for damages instead. This kind of nonsense won't hold up in court, right?" "Of course not, but their goal isn't to win. They're counting on you wanting to avoid a public trial, thinking you'll pay to make it go away. They're trying to squeeze a settlement out of you through intimidation." Public image. I don't care about that anymore. I figured as much. Then here's my advice. Don't settle. We'll fight this in court and not only have the case dismissed, but also demand that they pay all legal costs. They need to learn there are consequences for this kind of behavior. Agreed. Do it. I won't give them a single dollar. Even as the legal battle loomed, my mother kept using more primitive methods to get to me. Though I had returned to the country, I still wasn't mentally ready to stay in that house, so I continued living at the hotel. That decision turned out to be wise. 2 or 3 times a week, in the middle of the night, my security system detected movement outside my front door and sent alerts to my phone. Every time I checked the footage, the same person appeared. My mother. She must have thought I was still abroad. Without ringing the doorbell, she would take out the old spare key, one that no longer worked, and rattle the doorknob over and over again. It looked like something straight out of a horror movie. Each time, the security system automatically notified the police, and within minutes, a patrol car would arrive. The officers would issue her a stern warning, and she would leave quietly. All of it was recorded and stored on my phone. What was she even thinking? No, perhaps she wasn't thinking at all. Maybe it was nothing but obsession now. An obsession with something she could never have. The trial ended surprisingly quickly. Ethan submitted flawless documentation proving my legal ownership of the house, along with a series of past emails and messages showing that no so-called verbal agreement ever existed, granting my mother and sisters any claim to it. The judge barely glanced at the so-called evidence my mother and sisters had submitted, old family photos and sentimental stories, and dismissed their lawsuit entirely within minutes. Moreover, the court ruled that their case was malicious and baseless, ordering them to pay all of our legal expenses in full. As they exited the courtroom, their faces were twisted with rage and humiliation. When Megan and I passed by, she spat out venomously, her face contorted like a demon's. "Because of you, we're drowning in debt, you heartless monster." I said nothing. I simply walked past them. From that moment, their downfall accelerated. Between the legal fees, the penalties owed to the moving company, and the rent for the cheap apartment they must have hastily rented, Their lives began to clearly crumble. Their once glamorous social media posts stopped abruptly. In their place appeared pitiful hashtags like #budgetlife and #lifeishard. Megan sold the luxury car she had once flaunted, and Katie started listing her designer handbags online. Angela told me as much. My mother went around spreading lies about me to neighbors and relatives, but as word of the court's verdict spread, no one believed her anymore. If anything, she became known as the toxic parent who had tried to steal her own daughter's property. People began keeping their distance. Then one day, Angela called me. "Candace, it's about your mom." "What about her?" "She kept missing rent payments and got evicted. Now she's crashing at Megan's tiny apartment. The three of them fight constantly, mostly about money." I felt nothing even as I heard that. It was simply the natural consequence of the seeds they had sown themselves. A year passed after all the chaos. At last, I have found peace in my own home. I ended my stay at the hotel and returned to my house, now protected by a new security system. Life has been quiet, calm. Recently, Ethan shared an interesting story over dinner. You'll find this amusing. Your sister Megan contacted my office the other day. She said she'd heard I was good with real estate disputes. Apparently, she's now fighting with her landlord over unpaid rent. You're kidding. Of course, I politely declined. I told her there could be a conflict of interest. Hearing that story, I couldn't help but laugh. They had learned nothing. My mother and sisters are still living together in a cramped apartment, arguing every day. The sunny master bedroom they once dreamed of, the west-facing room with a view of the garden. None of it was ever theirs. What they got instead was debt, lost credibility, and mutual hatred. People sometimes ask why I chose to fight my own family so relentlessly. The answer lies in one simple truth, carved into my heart. My family never celebrated my success. They only sought to take from it. That fact says it all. The experience taught me one invaluable lesson. Boundaries are most essential where the ties are closest. So I severed those ties completely. My house is not my family's asset. It is my home, built from my work, my money, and my risks. And the gates of this fortress will never, ever open for them again.